Imagine, if you will, a weapon that makes no sound. It leaves no smoke. It weighs nothing. It sits on a desk in a teenage bedroom, disguised as a simple plastic keyboard. To the naked eye, it is just a collection of buttons and circuitry. But under the fingertips of the right person, that plastic board becomes a control panel for chaos. The cold plastic of the keys holds the heat of 1,000 silent battles, each clicking a thunderclap that rings only in the digital world, creating unseen destruction across continents. Tonight, we open a file on a completely true story. It is a narrative that blurs the line between childhood mischief and international crime. It is the account of how a 14-year-old boy, sitting in the quiet solitude of a farmhouse at the edge of the world, managed to declare a digital war on a billion-dollar corporation. This is not a legend of Silicon Valley ingenuity, but a dark fairy tale of rural isolation, meeting untethered power, the chronicle of a very real cyber rebellion. It is a tale of invisible power, of a signal that traveled silently across the ocean floor, carried by undersea cables, to shut down police stations, panic the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and freeze time for his enemies. The consequences were global, the origins profoundly local, centered entirely on a single Ethernet cable plugged into a rural home. The power he commanded was disproportionate to his age or means, allowing one small actor to influence global events. We will trace the path of this digital storm from the moment it began. We will follow the wires from the chaos of the underground hacking rings back to the absolute silence of a bedroom in England. But before we reach the courtroom, and before we hear the sirens, we must understand the world where this signal originated. So let the heavy weight of your day disconnect. Let the screen of your mind go dark. And let us travel to the beginning. Not in a server room, but on the edge of the sea, where the mist hides the world and the only sound is the wind. The silence in this corner of the British Isles is not a lack of sound, but an overwhelming presence of ancient geologic time. It is a land where the digital present struggles to impose itself on the historical past. The low stone walls, built to corral sheep and hold back the sea wind, seem to mock the invisible wires that cross the globe. Yet, this very quietude is a lie. The air above the rolling green fields is a saturated, invisible ocean, humming with the secret conversations of the planet. Every electronic pulse, every whispered message from a hostile nation or a global market passes through this airspace, making the southwest tip of England not a retreat from the world, but a hyper-aware ear pressed to its heartbeat. As the mist rolls off the Atlantic Ocean, shrouding the jagged cliffs of Cornwall in white, a silence falls over the farmland. It is a heavy, ancient silence, broken only by the rhythmic crashing of waves against granite and the mournful cry of gulls. To the casual observer, this corner of the world seems frozen in time. The pace of life here is governed by the tides and the seasons, a steady, predictable drumbeat that has echoed for centuries. The fields are divided by hedges thicker than any castle wall, and the narrow, winding roads resist speed and modernity. The vast, open landscapes impose a sense of insignificance on its inhabitants, feeding a deep need for self-affirmation. But hidden amongst this pastoral landscape, rising like white ghosts from the emerald fields, giant steel ears are listening. This is Cornwall, the rugged peninsula that forms the southwestern tip of England. It is a land of contrasts. On the surface, it is a picture of rural tranquility. Narrow, winding roads cut through rolling hills, flanked by high hedgerows. Small fishing villages cling to the coastline, their stone cottages huddled against the salt winds. It is a place where the concerns of the modern world often feel distant. The nearest city is a significant journey away, fostering a natural self-reliance and deep isolation. This enforced solitude is a key ingredient in Cam's story, for isolation creates a desperate need for connection and a blank canvas for the imagination. It provides the perfect incubator for the obsessive focus required to master complex digital systems. Yet, there is a secret heart beating beneath the soil. Near the town of Bude, stark against the skyline, sits a massive installation known as Government Communications Headquarters Bude, or GCHQ Bude. It is a surreal sight. 21 satellite dishes point towards the heavens. They are listening posts, collecting signals intelligence and performing mass eavesdropping on the invisible streams of data that crisscross our planet. They pluck secrets from the air, turning the silence of the coast into a cacophony of information. These domes represent the ultimate paradox of Cam's home. A region defined by its isolation is simultaneously a hub for global surveillance, a passive electronic combat zone disguised as a meadow. The very air Cam breathed, the waves that crashed nearby, were constantly carrying the secrets of nations, training his young, impressionable mind to unconsciously register the presence of invisible power. The contrast between the visible world of cows and granite and the invisible world of intercepted data served as a constant, unspoken lesson in hidden power. It was here, in this landscape of visible beauty and invisible surveillance, that a young boy named Cameron, or Cam for short, grew up. While he currently resides in Gloucester, his story was forged in the shadow of those great white dishes. Imagine growing up in a place where the horizon is dominated by the ocean on three sides. The isolation is physical and palpable, just the endless green of the fields and the endless grey of the sea. For an inquisitive mind, for a boy with questions that the rolling hills could not answer, this silence could be deafening. It was a silence that bred not contentment, but a profound restlessness, a need to find complexity and engagement beyond the slow churn of rural life. Cam was a normal boy in many respects. He went to school, walked the lanes, and watched the seasons change. He participated in the physical world, but he did not feel he belonged to it. He found the structures of small-town social life dull and restrictive. The rules of his social world felt arbitrary and unrewarding. But like many children of his generation, he found his escape not in the woods, but in the glow of a screen. In the early 2010s, the internet was becoming a ubiquitous force. For Cam, the computer was a portal. While his physical body was confined to a small town in the toe of England, his mind was free to roam the globe. He could be in Tokyo, New York, or Moscow with the click of a button. His consciousness existed on a completely different plane from his body. The digital realm offered him the scale, speed, and anonymity that the physical world denied him. The vastness of the internet provided the escape hatch from the crushing weight of small-town sameness. He could be anyone, anywhere, a profound transformation from the limited reality of being just a kid from Cornwall. He found freedom not in physical travel, but in the instantaneous transit of data. There is a poetic irony in his proximity to the GCHQ station. Just as those massive dishes were intercepting signals from around the world, Cam was doing something similar on a smaller scale. He was reaching out, connecting, and eventually learning to manipulate the very signals that the station nearby was built to monitor. Both the massive government apparatus and the lone teenager were united by the fundamental act of listening to the network's secrets. Cam's tiny router was the civilian counterpoint to GCHQ's colossal satellite farm. Both were engaged in the practice of extracting hidden meaning from the digital ether. This unspoken parallel reinforced the idea that the greatest power was wielded invisibly. The internet provided something the physical world could not: speed. In Cornwall, life moved at the speed of a tractor. But online, information moved at the speed of light. Thoughts became text, text became action, and action had consequences that rippled out instantly. This contrast was intoxicating. To sit in a quiet room with the rain tapping gently against the window and feel the hum of a billion conversations happening beneath the floorboards. This instant feedback loop was a powerful addiction, giving him a sense of agency he could never find navigating the ancient roads and bureaucratic slowness of his home county. Cam was observant. He saw how the digital world was constructed of code and protocols. He began to understand that this world had rules, and just like the physical world, those rules could be bent or even broken if one knew where to apply the pressure. He possessed a keen, almost intuitive ability to see structure where others saw only noise. This curiosity was the precursor to his destructive talent. He viewed software not as magic, but as engineering, a finite set of instructions that, like any machine, could be exploited if one found the design flaw. He excelled not at memorization, but at deep systemic logic. He began to approach the network itself like a vast, complex puzzle waiting to be solved, and its vulnerabilities were the prize. At 14 years old, Cam was beginning to look at the world differently. He was not just a passive consumer. He was becoming a student of its architecture. He realized that every person online was just an IP address, a digital coordinate in the electronic ether. This realization is a powerful thing. Suddenly, the world is not made of people, but of nodes and networks. The GCHQ station on the hill is a massive node, and Cam, sitting in his bedroom, was a node too. But he was a node that was waking up. He realized that beneath the surface of the internet, beneath the friendly colors and easy interfaces, lay a topography of raw data, and that this landscape was far more susceptible to intervention than the granite cliffs outside. The true power lay not in the virtual reality of the game, but in the underlying protocol that governed the connection. And Cam was shifting his attention from the game board to the infrastructure itself. He moved from playing the game to owning the entire digital environment. As the sun set over the Cornish coast, the white dishes of Bude would glow in the twilight. In one of the farmhouses down in the valley, the blue light of a monitor would illuminate a young face. The wind might howl outside, but inside the air was still. The only sound was the soft click of a keyboard and the hum of a cooling fan. In the soft glow of a standby light, a portal to another dimension sits humming in the corner of a darkened bedroom. It is a small, unassuming thing, a PlayStation 3. To the uninitiated, it is merely a toy. But for Cam, this plastic box was a proving ground. It was a window into a world far more chaotic than the quiet hills outside his window. When the house fell asleep, Cam would bring the machine to life. The cooling fans would whir, a soft white noise signaling the beginning of his ritual. The screen would flicker, bathing the room in pale blue light. This was his sanctuary, the hour between midnight and dawn when the network was his and his alone. It was a quiet rebellion against the adult schedule and the limited life he was expected to lead. His nocturnal activity carved out a personal empire where the rules of the day did not apply. For Cam, the game of choice was Call of Duty, modern warfare. It was a digital arena where millions convened to compete. The premise was simple: 2 teams, armed with virtual weaponry, vying for control. But beneath the surface, it was a complex ecosystem of strategy and hierarchy. The game offered the competitive meritocracy that the social world lacked, the frustration of the prey. However, this digital landscape was often a place of frustration. He was 14 years old. In the vast lobbies, he was pitted against adults who had memorized every corner of every map. The gap in experience was a chasm he struggled to bridge. He found himself consistently outmatched by older players whose reflexes, map knowledge, and sheer hours invested created an insurmountable skill barrier. He was constantly reminded of his juvenile status, a weakness he could not overcome through legitimate skill alone. The digital battlefield simply replicated the hierarchy he felt trapped beneath in the real world. The dynamic of an online shooter is unforgiving. It is a game of milliseconds. You round a corner, see an opponent, and before you can react, the screen turns red. Then comes the waiting. You watch a replay of your defeat before you are respawned to try again. Run, fail, wait. It is a loop that grinds away at patience. Cam wanted to be competitive. He wanted to be the one standing tall at the end. But his age and reflexes held him back. He felt a growing sense of injustice. It seemed the others were playing a different game, one where the laws of physics bent in their favor. In the quiet of his room, the frustration would mount. He felt left behind. And in the mind of a teenager, the desire to stop feeling small is a powerful motivator. He was tired of being the prey. The constant cycle of defeat felt like a personal slight, an insult to his intelligence that the physical world had already inflicted. He began to view the game not as fair competition, but as a system rigged against him, deserving of subversion. The game's developers and rules became his new enemy. This sense of righteous anger provided the justification for his earliest exploits. He began to ask himself questions. How were they so fast? Was it just skill? Or was there a secret knowledge he was missing? Mastering the flaw. This curiosity led him away from the game and onto the computer. He scoured the internet for answers. He visited forums and watched videos, searching for the keys to the kingdom. He was looking for shortcuts. He was looking for the cracks in the pavement, the weaknesses in the system that the developers had overlooked. His academic interest in systems architecture was now fused with a burning competitive desire. He transitioned from gamer to researcher, dedicating hours to studying vulnerabilities. He found them. They were called glitches. In the world of software, a glitch is an error, a mistake in the code that allows the user to do something unintended. It is like finding a door in a wall where there should be no door. Cam discovered that if you moved in a specific way, you could slip through the floor. You could fall underneath the world. From this vantage point, you could see everything. You could see the other players running above you, unaware you were beneath their feet. You could strike them, but they could not strike you. You were a phantom. The first time he successfully executed a glitch, the feeling was transformative. One moment, he was vulnerable. The next, he was outside the boundaries of reality. The textures of the buildings became transparent. He was no longer playing by the rules. He was operating outside of them. This act was fundamentally different from simply winning. It was an exercise in pure control. He hadn't mastered the game's mechanics. He had mastered its flaws. He realized the game world was not solid. It was a poorly constructed illusion, and he held the key to seeing through it. This was his first taste of the hacker's true pleasure, exploiting the failure of a complex system. There is a seductive power in breaking the rules. When Cam returned to the game armed with this knowledge, the dynamic shifted. The adults who had beaten him were now helpless. They would run past his hiding spot, doing everything right, yet they would fall. They could not see him. They could not touch him. He had found a way to level the playing field. The frustration evaporated, replaced by a rush of superiority. He was the magician who knew how the trick was done. The path to supremacy. But glitches were just the beginning. They were temporary errors, easily patched. As he delved deeper into the gaming underground, he discovered more sophisticated ways to manipulate the system. There were programs and scripts that could be injected into the game. He learned about aimbots and wall hacks, tools that allowed him to see through walls and lock onto targets automatically. These tools provided mechanical perfection, eliminating the need for juvenile reflexes. Cam began to experiment. He was no longer just playing, he was dissecting. He was peeling back the skin of the game to see the gears turning underneath. With every layer he peeled back, he felt more in control. He was engaging in reverse engineering, albeit crude, taking the machine apart not to understand its purpose, but to optimize its destruction. His goal shifted from winning a match to dominating the entire session through technical supremacy. He would sit in the dark, watching as his character decimated the opposition. The angry voices of the other players would fill his headset. They would shout, accuse him of cheating, and demand to know how he was doing it. Cam would just listen. He fed on their confusion. He found their outrage more satisfying than any in-game victory. It confirmed that he possessed a secret knowledge that made their efforts meaningless. The torrent of verbal abuse was merely a digital cheer for his technical prowess. This was a crucial transition. He was moving away from the innocent desire to compete and stepping into the darker waters of control. He was learning that in the digital world, authority comes from knowledge. If you know something the other person does not, you have power over them. The boy who felt isolated was now a force to be reckoned with. But with this power came a detachment. The other players ceased to be people. They became targets, non-player characters in his own narrative. He found that winning by manipulation provided a different kind of satisfaction. It felt like a secret. It validated his intelligence. For a teenager proving himself against a world of adults, this was an intoxicating elixir. Imagine a library where some books are forbidden, filled with secrets that can rewrite reality. Most people walk through admiring the architecture, unaware of the locked cabinets. Cam had found the library, and he was beginning to read. The transition was subtle. It happened with the quiet clicking of a mouse in the middle of the night. Cam had exhausted the glitches. He wanted something more. He wanted to understand how the walls were built in the first place. In the underground forums, Cam discovered a term that would define this phase: script kiddie. It describes a novice who uses tools written by others. A script kiddie is like a child who has found a wizard's spellbook. They may not understand the language, but if they read the words aloud, the magic happens all the same. Cam was 14. He didn't have a degree in computer science, but he was curious and determined. He began to download tools, pre-packaged weapons designed to turn a novice into a threat with a single click. This reliance on pre-made software gave him an immediate jump in capability, bypassing years of study. But it also left him profoundly ignorant of the underlying code, a dangerous weakness that would later prove critical. He was wielding a mechanism whose function he didn't understand, relying on faith in the tool's creator. This dependence on third-party exploit kits limited his true understanding while exponentially increasing his capacity for disruption. The digital calling card. The most profound discovery he made was the concept of the Internet Protocol address, or IP address. To the uninitiated, it is just a string of numbers. But to Cam, in that dim room in Cornwall, it became the Holy Grail. Think of the Internet as a vast, pitch-black ocean. Every ship must have a beacon to navigate. That beacon emits a signal. I am here. That signal is the IP address. Without it, data cannot find you. It is the fundamental trade-off of the digital age. To be connected, you must be visible. For years, Cam played under the assumption of anonymity. He believed the screen protected him. But as he wielded these new tools, he realized anonymity was a myth. The screen was not a shield, it was a window. Through it, he could see the beacons of every other player. He learned to use software that acted like a sonar. He plugged his computer into the flow of data, turning his bedroom into a listening post. When he joined a game lobby, the software lit up. It showed a list of connections. He could see them, not their avatars, but their true digital selves. The process of sniffing traffic felt like peeling back a layer of false reality. He discovered that the anonymity afforded by the game's interface was merely cosmetic. Beneath the avatars and gamer tags, the raw, ugly truth of the network was exposed. The software he used catalogued every incoming and outgoing packet, revealing the source address of every player his machine communicated with. The raw, unfiltered data provided an access point that no cheat code could match. This was a profound violation of the basic trust users place in the network. The simple act of joining a game was, unknowingly, an act of self-disclosure. The God complex and the pipe theory. This knowledge was intoxicating. It was a form of telepathy. He could see the architecture of the network laid out before him, a spiderweb of invisible wires connecting living rooms across the planet. There is a concept called the God complex, an inflated sense of personal ability. For a teenager feeling small and isolated, The ability to see the invisible coordinates of strangers was powerful. He held a secret no one else in the lobby knew. While they focused on the game, Cam held their digital passports. He began to see the internet not as a cloud, but as a series of pipes. Like any pipe, it has a capacity. The IP address was the opening of that pipe at the victim's house. It was the faucet. And Cam began to wonder what would happen if he tried to force a reservoir's worth of water through a garden hose. This was the core intellectual jump, realizing that the internet connection, the very line that granted access to the digital world, was also a fragile physical commodity. The connection had a limited bandwidth, and if he could fill that capacity with useless junk data, he could effectively sever the victim's lifeline to the game, and perhaps to the rest of the world. The attack was beautifully simple: suffocation by data. The technical name for this suffocation was volumetric attack, where the goal is simply to exceed the network capacity, measured in bits per second. He understood that the victim's only defense against him was a faster, larger connection, a purely financial barrier. This curiosity marked the end of his innocence. He was preparing to cast a spell. The tools he downloaded had features he hadn't used yet. Buttons with names that sounded aggressive, militaristic. They were clearly labeled not for network testing, but for active sabotage, DDoS, UDP flood, ping of end. The euphemisms of the underground were brutally honest, and Cam, reading the commands, understood he was moving from mischief to digital warfare. Crossing the line. The keys to the kingdom were in his hands. He knew where his enemies lived. The blue light of the screen illuminated a face that had lost the soft wonder of childhood and gained the sharp edge of intent. The PlayStation was still running, but Cam was miles away. He was deep in the architecture of the network. He realized that knowing the IP address gave him the ability to touch the victim in the real world. If he could disrupt their connection, he could disconnect them from the game. He could silence them. It was a godlike power, the power of exile, the capacity to digitally banish someone from the online world was a profound and addictive form of justice. The misty hills of Cornwall seemed to shrink. The world expanded. Cam felt the hum of the GCHQ satellites nearby, and he felt a kinship. They were watchers, and so was he. He closed the text file containing the list of addresses. He opened a new program, a stressor tool found in the dark corners of a forum. The interface was simple: a box for an IP address, a box for duration, and a button that said launch. It sat there, pulsing. The cursor hovered over the button. The silence in the room deepened. To press that button was to cross a line. It was to move from observer to combatant. He was consciously choosing to transform a digital slight into a real-world disruption. Cam looked at the screen. He looked at the game where an opponent had just insulted him. He typed in the numbers. The keys were heavy in his hand. He had found the secret door and unlocked it. Now, all that was left was to kick it open. The boy in the corner was gone. In his place sat the architect of his own digital justice, his finger poised over the trigger, ready to turn the quiet night into a deafening roar. In the physical world, stopping traffic requires heavy machinery, concrete barricades, and flashing lights. It is loud and laborious. But in the digital world, blocking movement requires none of these things. It requires only a flood. Cam sitting in the quiet solitude of his room in Cornwall, had discovered a way to summon this flood. He had armed himself with a tool straight out of science fiction, the low-orbit ion cannon. To the uninitiated, the name conjures images of satellites raining down energy. In reality, the low-orbit ion cannon, or LOIC, was a piece of software. It was a small, easily downloaded program. When opened, it looked like a calculator, but when the button was pressed, it transformed the computer into a fire hose of digital noise. Its interface, deliberately simple and almost cartoonish, masked its true destructive potential, turning a malicious action into what felt like a satisfying, arcade-style button press. This simplification masked the true legal gravity of the action. To understand what Cam was doing, imagine a quiet suburban house representing his opponent's internet connection. This house has a driveway, the bandwidth through which information travels. Under normal circumstances, traffic is light, the flow is smooth. Now, imagine Cam decides to target this house. He enters the address into his cannon and presses the button. Suddenly, thousands of phantom cars appear. They swarm the driveway, bumper to bumper, not to park, but to occupy space. The homeowner cannot move. Delivery trucks bringing data cannot get to the front door. The house is cut off. The phone lines are jammed. The residents are trapped inside, isolated by a wall of traffic. This is a denial of service attack, DOS, a siege conducted by invisible data packets. Cam sat in his chair, the master of this traffic jam. He watched the LOIC dashboard, which measured the sheer volume of data being pushed out, often reaching rates that overwhelmed standard home routers. But before he could launch, he needed a target. The game developers hid player addresses to keep them safe. Cam could hear the voice in his headset, but he didn't know where the digital house was located. The social engineering trap. So, Cam devised a plan. If he couldn't steal the address by force, he would ask for it. But he would ask with a lie. This is social engineering. Cam knew his opponents were fueled by ego. He crafted a digital lure. He created a link using a URL shortener. Behind this link lay a trap, a website he controlled, set up to log the details of anyone who visited. The entire system relied on the victim's pride and competitive anger. "I caught you cheating," he would write in the chat. "I recorded it. Look at this." The impulse to click is almost irresistible. Indignation flares. Curiosity peaks. The finger moves the mouse and they click. They clicked not out of genuine curiosity, but out of the competitive urge to defend their honor. An emotional weakness Cam learned to exploit expertly. In that split second, the trap snaps. The web browser sends a request to Cam's server, handing over the IP address, the digital calling card, on a silver platter. On Cam's second monitor, a line of text would appear, the timestamp, the browser type, and the address. This confirmation line was Cam's trophy, the digital receipt of his victory over their arrogance. The act was a testament to the power of human psychology over technical defense. Cam learned early that the easiest system to exploit is the human mind. It was a heist committed in plain sight. The victim saw a blank page and thought nothing of it. They returned to the game ready to fight, but the fight was over. The launch sequence Cam copied the address. He opened the low-orbit ion cannon and pasted the numbers. He fine-tuned the engine of his phantom fleet. He could select various attack vectors like UDP or TCP floods, but for maximum impact against a home user, simple volumetric attack was often sufficient. There was a moment of anticipation. The game was still running. The opponent was still moving, alive in the shared reality. Cam's finger hovered over the button labeled Immer Chargin Ma Laser, a silly meme for such a destructive tool. He clicked. There was no explosion, no sound of gunfire. The only indication was the sudden spike in numbers on the dashboard. The program began counting packets sent, thousands, then tens of thousands. The quiet whir of his cooling fan was the only soundtrack to the invisible barrage he had just launched across the globe. The true war was measured in data rate, not decibels. For that moment, his tiny computer was a military-grade weapon system with transatlantic reach. Then the stuttering began. On Cam's screen, the opponent's character froze. They ran in place, legs pumping but moving nowhere. This is lag, the visual symptom of a choked connection. The data describing the character's movement was stuck in the traffic jam. Then the final silence. The character vanished. A message appeared. Player disconnected. The traffic jam was complete. The house was cut off. In his room in Cornwall, Cam sat back. The rush was undeniable. He felt absolute power. He had not outsmarted the player with tactics. He had simply reached out his hand and extinguished their light. The victory was pure, unfiltered dominance, the removal of the adversary from the shared reality. The ease with which he could control another player's connectivity was a revelatory experience. The cannon hummed on his screen. As long as he left it running, that person could not reconnect. They were in a digital purgatory, and Cam held the key. He was 14 years old, and he had the power to impose a curfew on strangers. The internet, usually a place of freedom, had become a place where he could erect walls. It is strange to think such chaos could be caused by something so quiet. There was no smoke, just a boy in a blue-lit room. But the effect was real. Somewhere, another person was staring at a blank screen, wondering why the world had gone dark. They might reset their router, call their ISP, or blame the weather, never realizing the true source was a teenager who felt slighted in a video game. The mystery of the outage only served to deepen Cam's sense of unseen power, as his victims searched for physical reasons for a digital attack. Cam would eventually click stop. The flood would recede. The driveway would clear. The victim would blame their internet provider or bad weather. They would never suspect the teenager in the toe of England. The cannon was a crude tool, but it taught him a lesson. The digital world is fragile. It is held together by thin threads, and those threads can be cut. Time is usually a river, flowing in one direction at a steady speed. In the physical world, we cannot pause the sunset. But for Cam, sitting in the cool blue light, time became a fluid he could manipulate. It became a river he could dam with the press of a button. In online combat, time is the currency. When two digital soldiers meet, the outcome is decided in fractions of a second. The player who navigates this timeline fastest wins. But Cam had discovered a way to freeze the world. The technique was a refinement of the brute force he used before. The ion cannon was a sledgehammer. Now, Cam used it like a scalpel. He didn't always want to disconnect his opponent. Sometimes, he just wanted to slow them down. He wanted to trap them in digital molasses while he moved freely. This was an escalation of cruelty. Disconnection was banishment, but lag was psychological distress. the objective shifted from technical disruption to emotional dominance, wearing down the opponent's morale. Weaponizing latency. This is known as lag, high latency. To experience lag is to experience a fracture in reality. You press a button, but your character stands still. The smooth illusion of the game shatters into a jagged nightmare. Imagine a duel at noon. The clock ticks. In a fair fight, the faster hand wins. But in Cam's version, when the clock strikes 12, he pauses the universe for his opponent. Cam would goad players into one-on-one confrontations. 1 versus 1, they'd say. Let's settle this. They would load into a private match. The opponent, eager for revenge, would rush forward, trusting the rules of the river. They would see Cam's character ahead, looking vulnerable. They would fire. But on Cam's screen, a different story unfolded. As the engagement began, Cam activated his tools. He flooded the opponent's connection just enough to clog the pipe. The data packets got stuck. To Cam, the opponent simply stopped. They froze in mid-stride, a marionette with cut strings. Cam could walk around them, inspect them, and take his time. He was the only living thing in a frozen world. He could admire the perfect stillness of his foe, a moment of profound, unnatural peace before the inevitable destruction. He was effectively playing the game in single-player mode, while his adversary was stuck in limbo. He would line up his shot with deliberate precision and pull the trigger. Consider the victim's perspective. They see their bullets hitting Cam. They see the muzzle flash, but nothing happens. Cam isn't falling. It's like shooting a phantom. Then the data catches up. The traffic jam clears. Reality snaps back. The victim's screen jerks. One moment they are standing. The next, they are no longer functional, watching the replay of their demise. They never saw Cam operate the control. They simply ceased to exist. The game tried to reconcile hours of missed data in a split second, resulting in instantaneous, inexplicable non-functionality. This is the Phantom Soldier, the enemy you cannot see. Cam was fighting from the future. The psychology of control. The psychological impact was devastating. Lag feels like a betrayal of the universe. It feels like bad luck. The opponent would scream in frustration. I hit you. How are you not dysfunctional? Cam would offer a calm, mocking laugh. You missed. Too slow. He was gaslighting his opponents through technical means. The rage would intensify. They would demand a rematch. That was a glitch. Cam would agree. He would let them try again. He would let them believe the river would flow smoothly this time. But the result was always the same. The world would stutter. The air would thicken. And then the snap, the black screen, the defeat. It was a cycle of torment. Cam wasn't just defeating avatars. He was dismantling composure. He listened to the sounds of fury, punched desks, thrown controllers. It was a symphony of rage conducted by a boy miles away. There was a strange satisfaction in this. Deep down, he knew he wasn't beating them at Call of Duty. If played fair, the adult might win. By cheating, he admitted he couldn't win on a level field. But in his mind, the objective had changed. It was about dominance. By rendering their skill irrelevant, he had trumped them. You may be better at the game, he reasoned, but I have trumped you. Therefore, I win. It was the logic of the hacker. Why bring a knife to a weapon exchange when you can turn off the lights? He learned to modulate the attacks, keeping the victim just on the edge of disconnection. He watched the ping numbers on the scoreboard, the digital heartbeat. When he activated his tool, the ping would skyrocket. The numbers turned red. He was regulating the pain, keeping them trapped in a cycle of frustration rather than granting them the release of being fully disconnected. This calculated cruelty prolonged the victim's confusion and fury. He found mastery not just in the code, but in the opponent's rising emotional distress. As the nights wore on, the thrill of the game faded, replaced by the thrill of manipulation. The true game was the red numbers. Cam felt like an omnipotent god in this small universe. He played with them like a cat plays with a mouse. The next level of sniffing. However, this method had limitations. It relied on the opponent clicking a link or joining a private match. Cam wanted more. He wanted total coverage. He wanted to reach anyone, anywhere, without them making a mistake. He began to think about the console itself. The PlayStation 3 was a closed garden, but its connections were open. He realized that the peer-to-peer, P2P nature of the game was a vulnerability. In many matches, players connected directly to each other. This architecture, designed for efficiency, was the security flaw Cam was looking for. This meant traffic from his enemies was flowing right into his house. It was coming down his driveway. He didn't need to trick them into sending their address. They were already sending it. He just needed to read the return address. The Phantom Soldier was upgrading his arsenal. He was done with social engineering. He was ready to strip away anonymity entirely. The days of asking for the address were over. He was going to obtain it. As the fog thickened outside, Cam looked at the tangled wires behind his desk. He saw the Ethernet cable not as a wire, but as a vein pulsing with information. All he had to do was tap into it. The game was about to get personal. Picture a crowded cocktail party. The air is thick with the hum of hundreds of conversations. In this environment, hearing a secret is impossible. You see lips moving, but words are drowned by noise. Now, imagine a device in your pocket. You turn a dial, and the room falls silent. Voices extinguish one by one until only a single person is left speaking. They are unaware of the silence. They continue to talk, believing their voice is hidden. But you hear them with crystal clarity. You have isolated the signal from the noise. This was the power Cam saw. He was tired of the link trick. It was effective, but crude. He wanted a method that was passive, invisible, and absolute. He wanted to identify targets without them ever knowing he was watching. Building the network bridge. He studied the game's connection architecture. In those days, console gaming often relied on peer-to-peer, P2P connections. Imagine a traditional phone call, a direct line between two houses, no moderator in the middle. The PlayStation worked similarly. When a match began, consoles connected to one another. It meant every person in the lobby was sending data directly to Cam's house. Their IP addresses, their digital coordinates, were arriving at his front door, knocking to be let in so the game could function. The simple act of playing the game was an involuntary disclosure of the victim's location. Cam looked at the black box of his PlayStation and the grey Ethernet cable snaking into the wall. He realized this wire was a tributary carrying his enemy's secrets. But the console didn't show raw data. So he decided to construct a barrier. He unplugged the console. He plugged the Ethernet cable into his laptop, then ran a second cable from the laptop to the router. He created a bridge. He inserted himself into the flow. Every piece of information entering or leaving his PlayStation now passed through his computer first. His laptop was now a transparent digital toll booth, silently inspecting every vehicle that passed. He was no longer just a player. He was a checkpoint, a toll booth operator on the information highway. He downloaded network analysis software, often called a packet sniffer, such as Wireshark. He booted up the game. On the TV, the familiar lobby appeared, but on his laptop, a different reality unfolded. It looked like a waterfall. Lines of text cascaded down the monitor in a blur of green and black. These were the packets. Every movement, every shot, every word spoken was a packet flowing through Cam's laptop. At first, it was overwhelming. Thousands of packets per second. How could he tell which belonged to whom? The data flow was a chaotic river of anonymous traffic, requiring an index to be useful. He needed a reliable method of mapping the digital noise back to the gamer's persona, isolating the signal. Then he had an epiphany. He realized voice data is significant in volume. In the digital world, text is light, a feather, but the voice, sound, is substantial. It requires more bandwidth. When someone speaks into their microphone, their console works harder, sending a surge of traffic. Cam devised a simple solution. He entered the lobby. He opened the scoreboard. He silenced everyone. One by one, he toggled the silent function. The chatter ceased. The background noise faded. Finally, he left only one person audible, his target. He looked at his laptop screen. The waterfall of data slowed to a trickle, but the target was still conversing. Every time the target spoke, Cam saw a spike on his graph. A specific IP address would light up, sending a burst of significant packets. The rhythm of the data matched the rhythm of the voice. When they laughed, the data spiked. When they paused, the line went flat. The audio pattern of the voice chat became a unique biometric signature on the network. This passive listening transformed noise into intelligence. It was a digital fingerprint. By correlating the sound in his ears with the movement on his screen, Cam could isolate the victim with 100% certainty. He could point to a string of numbers and say, "That is you." This method was terrifyingly effective. It required no interaction. The victim didn't have to click a link. They just had to exist. They just had to speak. Their confidence in their anonymity was the very thing that betrayed them. Cam felt a shift. He was no longer looking at graphics. He was looking through the matrix. He saw the game as tubes and wires, and he held the pliers. He began to build a database. He would enter a lobby, silence everyone but one, identify their address, write it down, then the next. He was amassing digital identities. He created a virtual ledger of his enemies, complete with their real-world location coordinates, a physical map of his digital animosity. This database was his personal control list, far more valuable than any in-game achievement. The isolation of his room provided the perfect atmosphere for this meticulous work of surveillance. The room in Cornwall became a silent observatory. The glow of the monitors illuminated a young, calculating face. The innocence of play was gone. This was the meticulous work of a spy, the detached judge. With the address in hand, the rest was routine. Copy the numbers, open the stressor, paste, launch. The result was immediate. On the TV, the target froze. The voice in the headset cut out mid-sentence. A as if a wire had been snipped. Then, player disconnected. The lobby would fall silent. The other players continued, unaware a disruption was in their midst, picking them off one by one. Cam felt a sense of detached omnipotence. He was the invisible hand. He decided who spoke and who was silenced. There is an intimacy to this surveillance. Listening to someone speak, hearing their background noise, a dog barking, a parent calling, while holding the power to disrupt their connection. You know them, but they don't know you. You are a phantom in their machine. The act of listening and subsequent silencing formed a twisted, one-sided relationship based on absolute control. The power derived from seeing and hearing without being seen or heard was his ultimate stimulant. Cam was learning that the internet is built on trust. We trust our location remains private. But Cam had pulled back the curtain. The walls were thin. If you knew where to look, you could see right through them. He was 14, sitting in a farmhouse, and he had turned his home network into a panopticon. He could see everything. But this power fueled a dangerous invincibility. He felt untouchable. He was the watcher, never the watched. He didn't realize there is always a bigger presence. While he monitored the traffic of gamers, he forgot his own traffic was flowing out. He was leaving footprints. Every attack created a disturbance in the ether. Noise attracts attention. The stressor attacks, while utilizing botnets, still contained metadata that could, eventually, be traced back to the commander. The noise he created in the network was a homing beacon for those watching the infrastructure. The mist outside hid the rolling hills, but it couldn't hide the signals beaming from the satellite dishes on the hill or from Cam's router. He had mastered the console and the network. He learned to neutralize enemies, but he was about to learn. You cannot silence the consequences. The silent listener was about to be heard. The real world was preparing to knock on his door. There is a veil between the digital realm and the physical world. For most, this veil is thick. We view screen events as distant abstractions. The wars in video games don't leave scorch marks on the carpet. We operate under the illusion that what happens online stays online. But for Cam, that veil was about to tear. He had spent months cultivating a dual existence. By day, a quiet student walking the hedgerows of Cornwall. By night, a digital phantom silencing enemies with a keystroke. Two lives running parallel, never touching. But the world is smaller than we think. Sometimes the enemy is just down the road. And in the dense, closed social circuit of a rural town, the two worlds were destined to cross paths violently. There was a boy in Cam's life who bridged the gap, a fellow student, a few years older. In the closed ecosystem of a small town, he was a known quantity. In the physical world, he held the power, age, size, social standing. This boy also played Call of Duty. He moved in Cam's virtual circles, but there was friction, petty, small-town animosity. The older boy was jealous of a mutual friend. He felt Cam was encroaching on his territory. This wasn't just gaming rivalry. It was an extension of real-world dominance contests spilling onto the virtual battlefield. When they logged onto the PlayStation, the dynamic shifted. The older boy would give Cam trouble, targeting him, trash-talking him, trying to humiliate him in the lobby, just as he might in the cafeteria. He didn't know who he was dealing with. He saw the quiet 14-year-old. He didn't see the command center. He didn't see the traffic analysis software or the stressor tool. He was poking a dragon he believed to be a lizard. Cam tolerated it for a while. But one evening, the frustration boiled over. The insults were particularly aggressive. Cam decided he had heard enough. He didn't shout back. He simply opened his laptop. He found the older boy's IP address. They were in the same peer-to-peer game. The number appeared on his screen, a digital coordinate pointing to a house just a few miles away. The proximity was shocking. The abstract victim was now localized, a physical location just over the hill. The power of the network had brought the bully right to his doorstep. Cam entered the number. He set the duration. He pressed the button. On the screen, the older boy's character froze. The voice cut out mid-insult. The avatar stood motionless, a monument to hubris before vanishing. Player disconnected. The lobby fell quiet. Cam felt the rush of satisfaction. He had asserted dominance. He had silenced the bully without throwing a punch. He sat back, feeling the cool detachment of a judge delivering a sentence. Collision with the analog world. But this time, the silence didn't last. The digital attack had a physical consequence. Downstairs, the telephone rang. It was the shrill, mechanical trill of a landline, a sound from a different era. In the quiet farmhouse, it was jarring. Cam's mother answered. On the other line was the older boy's mother. She was upset. Her son was upset. Their internet had gone down, completely severed. The boy, knowing exactly who was responsible, had told her, "Cam did it. Cam knocked me offline." The conversation was a collision of worlds. One mother defended her son, who claimed his internet was broken by magic. The other, Cam's mother, confused. How could her son, sitting upstairs, break the internet in a house miles away? It sounded like science fiction. The analog world was desperately trying to process a digital crime. The technical reality was too advanced for the social framework to handle. Cam was summoned downstairs. He left the blue glow and entered the living room, the domain of physical laws. His mother was waiting. She recounted the call. She told him to stop whatever he was doing. Here, we encounter the gray zone. Cam's mother was a woman of the analog age. She understood physical transgressions, a broken window, a punch. But a denial of service attack? It was invisible. No broken glass, no smoke. To her, it sounded like her son was just winning a game too aggressively. She gave him a lecture. Play nice. Don't turn off people's games because you're angry. It was a scolding for bad manners, not criminal activity. She lacked the vocabulary to describe the felony. The language of law and consequence was missing from the reprimand, replaced only by a request for better behavior. She had no frame of reference for the seriousness of the Computer Misuse Act. To Cam's mother, this was a schoolyard spat involving mysterious technology. To the law, it was sabotage. Emboldened by ignorance, Cam stood there, listening. He saw the confusion in her eyes. He realized she didn't understand. It's a bit pathetic, he thought. The older boy was a sore loser running to mommy, and his mother was just keeping the peace. He nodded. He promised to behave. But internally, the lesson he learned was not the one intended. He didn't learn that he was wrong. He learned that the adults were blind. He realized the authority figures in his life couldn't police what they couldn't comprehend. If she had explained the Computer Misuse Act, perhaps he would have stopped. But the warning was toothless. Cam returned to his room and closed the door. The incident hadn't scared him, it emboldened him. He felt immune. He was a wizard in a world of those lacking technological knowledge. They heard the thunder but couldn't see the storm summoner. The lack of proper consequence confirmed his dangerous belief in his own invincibility. The phone call, instead of being a deterrent, became proof of his unparalleled capability. He realized the physical and digital worlds were separate, but not how he thought. The physical was slow and ignorant. The digital was fast and powerful, and he was master of the latter. He rationalized his actions. I didn't harm anyone, just stopped him from playing for a few minutes. This is the seduction of cybercrime. It abstracts the victim. No bruise to see, just a flat graph. It feels clean. By reducing the crime to a mere inconvenience, he dismissed the potential for real-world harm and the actual illegality of the attack. Cam convinced himself he was leveling the playing field. He pushed against the real world, and it pushed back with nothing but a confused phone call. He felt untouchable. He looked at the screen. The game was waiting. There were thousands of potential targets. And now, he knew that even if they knew who he was, the consequences were manageable. He was 14, and he could get away with it. The veil had torn, but instead of letting light in, it let darkness out. Cam stepped back into the game, not as a chastised child, but as an emboldened operator. The knock at the firewall had come, and he had found nothing to fear on the other side. In the back alleys of the physical world, there are bazaars where forbidden items change hands, places where reputation is currency and weapons are traded like commodities. In the digital world, these bazaars exist too, hidden in plain sight, buried within forums and chat rooms. Cam stepped into this marketplace. He was done with simple tools. The low-orbit ion cannon had a flaw. It used its own connection. It was like holding a door against a gale. Pushing back exhausted his own resources. He risked knocking himself offline. This single point of failure limited his power. He needed insulation and scale. His technical ambitions had outgrown the limitations of his home broadband. He needed a proxy, an army to do his bidding while he sat safely in his tower. Renting the botnet army. Enter the world of the stressor. To the public, these were network diagnostic tools for administrators to stress test servers. A thin veneer of legality. In the underground, they were booters. Websites controlling massive botnets, thousands of infected devices, computers, smart TVs, cameras, waiting for a command. These botnets were typically composed of vulnerable IoT devices or poorly secured home computers, all silently weaponized without their owner's knowledge. Cam understood that his true power wasn't his computer, but the aggregated vulnerability of millions of others. He was exploiting the collective poor security of the global internet. When a user signed up, they rented this army. Enter an address, click a button, and the victim is hit not by a hose, but by a tsunami from all directions. But these services cost money. Cam was 14. No credit card, no income. He couldn't buy his way in. But the hacker economy is driven by barter, by knowledge and clout. Cam possessed time and tenacity. He infiltrated the communities where stressor owners hung out. He joined Skype groups and Twitter circles. He presented himself as a peer, concealing his age behind slang and technical terms. He had learned that social currency in this realm was built entirely on demonstrating capability. He meticulously studied the ecosystem of the services he wanted, learning that money was not the only medium of exchange. He found his value lay in his sharp eye for game-specific vulnerabilities and new exploits, intel that established hackers needed to maintain their services' efficacy. By identifying and sharing new flaws in popular software, he positioned himself as an indispensable source of information. He traded knowledge, the one resource he possessed abundantly, for raw power. He was a black market information broker, exchanging intellectual property for artillery access, and rapidly building a reputation among the digital underworld. He began to trade. He found exploits in systems, backdoors in game servers, and offered them for access. "I'll show you the vulnerability if you give me a month of premium access." Information for firepower. He was persuasive. He negotiated his way from one service to another. It was a game of accumulation. Soon, he had logins for 10 different stressor services, 10 different botnets. Imagine sitting in a quiet bedroom, rain tapping the window, knowing you hold the keys to 10 armies. The power was intoxicating. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about capability. The symphony of destruction. He experimented with layering attacks. Why hit with one stressor when you can hit with 10? He lined them up in browser tabs. Launch 1, tab. Launch 2, tab. Launch 3. He was conducting coordinated, multi-vector attacks, a demonstration of force far beyond the original ion cannon's capacity. This scale meant he was no longer just targeting a player's home router, but potentially disrupting small, local internet exchange points. The sheer coordinated volume of junk traffic represented a denial of service at the infrastructure level. He was effectively orchestrating a digital riot from his bedroom. The combined force was staggering, a digital crescendo, gigabits per second, enough to take down small businesses or disrupt organizations. He felt like a conductor of chaos. The psychological shift was profound. He was becoming a merchant of chaos. Targets lost their humanity. They were just hosts to be disabled. He watched the indicators. Attack sent. He used status checker websites as his scoreboard. The red text, "It's not just you. Website looks down," was his trophy. Proof that a teenager in England had disrupted something thousands of miles away. The status checker became his validation, a real-time ledger confirming his invisible power. He sought out others with this power. Digital cliques of vandals. "Bet you can't take that site down. Watch me." It was a flexing of muscles. He wanted to find the limit, but with 10 stressors, the limit was hard to find. The owners recognized his name. He was a power user. The boy bullied for being excluded was now central to a community of disruptors. But there is danger in becoming a merchant of chaos. Disruption becomes the only solution. Annoyed, stressor. Bored, stressor. The tool became a crutch, a hammer making the world look like nails. The ease of disruption warped his perspective, leading him to believe all problems had a digital, destructive solution. The line between necessity and recreation vanished entirely. Despite the scale of his operations, his physical reality remained unchanged. Small room, same posters, misty farmland view. The contrast stretched thin. He was a ghost king ruling phantom machines. He could command a fridge in Korea to attack a toaster in Brazil. Geography collapsed on his monitor. The physical laws of distance and presence were utterly irrelevant to his digital reach. But a weapon without a war is restless. He had the arsenal, but ran out of targets. Gamers were too small. Schoolyard grievances were beneath him. He needed a purpose. He saw others attacking for a cause. Hacktivism. It elevated the chaos. It gave disruption a moral framework. It turned the vandal into a vigilante. Cam looked at his dormant power. He wanted to break things that deserved to be broken. He wanted to be a force for rectification. The merchant of chaos was looking for a client, a mission. And soon, amidst the chatter, he would find one. A cause that justified his terrible collection of weapons. The boy with the keys was about to find a dragon to overcome. The song of a whale travels for miles through the deep ocean. It is a mournful, complex cry carrying messages across the vast blue expanse. In the open sea, it has no boundaries, but when confined to a concrete tank, the sound has nowhere to go. It bounces off walls, turning a song of freedom into a cacophony of confinement. In 2013, the documentary Blackfish was released. It told the story of Tilikum, a captive orca, and the tragic consequences of keeping massive, intelligent creatures in small, artificial environments. It was a cultural phenomenon. The ripples reached the quiet coast of Cornwall. Cam, 14 years old, watched the film alone in his room. As images of whales performing tricks flickered across his screen, something shifted. He watched the documentary not as passive entertainment, but with a visceral, almost painful emotional connection. He saw dorsal fins collapse from lack of water pressure. He saw mothers separated from calves. He heard trainers describe the psychosis of trapped minds. The isolation and captivity of the whales mirrored, in a bizarre way, the solitude Cam felt in his rural existence, creating a powerful sense of empathy. The suffering he saw on screen, the injustice of powerful entities controlling helpless lives, resonated deeply with his own teenage sense of being oppressed and unheard. He saw the captors of the whales as the same kind of dominant, indifferent power he had fought online. It resonated with him. Perhaps it was his own isolation at the edge of England. He felt a physical sickness. The God mode rush of digital manipulation evaporated, replaced by profound helplessness. He was just a boy. No money, no voice. A cardboard sign outside SeaWorld would be ignored. The outrage was pure, but the traditional avenues for protest were closed off to him. He needed a weapon that was loud enough to travel the distance, a tool of intervention that worked outside established structures. But Cam was not like other boys. He had a secret arsenal. Browsing the internet for an outlet, he stumbled upon a signal, a call to arms from the collective, known as Anonymous. They were talking about the whales. They were angry. They called it Operation Fun Kill. The objective: disrupt the digital operations of the companies responsible. Break down the digital walls if they couldn't break the concrete ones. This was a declaration of cyber warfare on behalf of a voiceless population. Cam read the manifesto. Greedy corporations are destroying nature. Now the animals will fight back. It was war rhetoric. For a 14-year-old, it was intoxicating. It transformed his skills into a moral imperative. He wasn't a script kiddie anymore. He was a soldier in a righteous crusade. The mission provided the context that his tools had been waiting for. The first major attack. He reached out. He told them He wanted to help. In the meritocracy of the underground, only capability matters. A user sent him a list, a target list, SeaWorld's web servers, zoos in the Netherlands, dolphin parks in Japan, government websites supporting whaling. "See what you can achieve," the user said. Cam sat in his chair. The list glowed. He opened his 10 stressor accounts. He realized his arsenal was capable of more than petty revenge. He felt a new adrenaline, the cold resolve of a mission. His previous attacks were experiments. This was the first time he intended to use his full destructive capacity for a purpose he genuinely believed in. His fingers flew across the keyboard, driven by moral indignation rather than personal slight. He copied the first address, SeaWorld. He pasted it into the first stressor, maximum power, launch, then the second, the third. He unleashed everything. He launched a multi-continent attack using rented botnets, a force that could only be assembled through the dark web economy. From servers in Russia, computers in Brazil, a global torrent of data flowed. It converged on the marine park's infrastructure like a hurricane. The website didn't stand a chance. Cam opened the status checker. The circle spun. Then, service unavailable. He had done it. He reached out from his bedroom and disabled the infrastructure for $1 billion corporation. He checked Twitter. The official account posted about technical difficulties. They were apologizing, losing money. Every minute down was revenue vanishing. He had struck the company where it was most vulnerable, its commercial ability to function. Cam felt validated. The sickness receded. He wasn't helpless. He had made the giant blink. The digital battlefield was the only place he felt truly powerful against institutional injustice. He saw the outages as small victories for the whales. The impact was measurable, instant, and visible to the global community of Anonymous. He didn't stop. He targeted the Japanese town known for dolphin hunts. He targeted government departments. He was the invisible hand of the whale, the siren song of fame. The Anonymous community took notice. Cam, under his pseudonym, gained a following. His Twitter became a megaphone. Target disabled. He posted screenshots. His follower count ticked up. 27,000 people. Animal rights activists, vegetarians, strangers cheering him on. A feedback loop of validation. He was no longer isolated. He was a leader, a highly effective instrument of a global cause. The digital praise filled the emotional void left by his isolation in Cornwall. The applause of strangers online became his primary source of self-worth. He felt like a folk hero, a digital Robin Hood. But the line between activism and vandalism blurred. He began to enjoy the power. He would sit in math class thinking about the servers he disrupted. He felt a secret superiority over his teachers and peers. He was living in a world of corporate warfare. He once disrupted a school quiz website from his phone just to avoid a test. A petty parlor trick. The moral high ground was slippery. The thrill of the exploit was beginning to overshadow the purity of the cause, replaced by a simple desire to test the limits of his authority. The attacks continued. Companies fought back with cybersecurity firms and expensive software. A digital arms race. Cam bartered for more power. He was a force of nature. One night, he targeted SeaWorld again. He set the parameters, launched the fleet. I watched the site go dark. Then, exhausted by school and hacking, he made a mistake. A simple, human mistake. He fell asleep. The irony was immense. The sophisticated cyber attack was interrupted by a juvenile need for rest. The attack was running, the stressors firing. Cam slept, dreaming. The attack ran all night, into the morning, while he ate breakfast, while he went to school. Usually, attacks lasted an hour. This was a siege. For days, the website remained offline. The company lost millions. The deluge wouldn't stop because the commander was unconscious. It was a stark reminder of the disconnect. A boy sleeping in a farmhouse had launched a historic attack simply because he forgot to click stop. When he finally realized, logged back in, and saw the counters, he felt shocked. Jesus, it's been a long time. But fear didn't take hold. The cheers of 27,000 followers were too loud. He was winning. The whales were avenged. The external validation drowned out any possible internal remorse. He didn't know the shadows in the water weren't just the whales. They were the forces he was attracting. He had painted a target on his back. The satellite dishes on the hill weren't the only ones listening. The world was watching and coming for him. On a quiet evening, while the world slept, a siege began. No battering rams, no catapults, just the wind against the stone farmhouse walls. But in the digital realm, a relentless stream of data hammered the gates of a corporate giant. It was a silent war between a teenager in a bedroom and a multinational infrastructure. Cam sat before his command center, blue light casting long shadows. He was deploying with intent. The target, SeaWorld. To understand the scale, understand the defense. SeaWorld used content delivery networks, CDNs. Companies like Akamai acted as the King's Guard, placing servers globally to shield the main computer. They absorbed traffic, filtered noise, and protected the keep. This was professional-grade defense, the digital equivalent of a fortified castle. Cam was trying to storm these outposts, to generate so much noise that the King's Guard would be overrun. He lined up his artillery, 10 stressor accounts, 10 botnets, thousands of infected devices. He began the sequence: copy address, paste, launch. He moved efficiently, bringing each engine online. The hum of the internet infrastructure rose. Across the Atlantic, alarms rang in cool data centers. Traffic spiked violently. The normal flow of visitors was replaced by a tsunami of junk. Akamai defenses kicked in, scrubbing traffic. The shield held, but the pressure indicators were screaming red. Security analysts, roused from their sleep, watched the attack data, a massive, coordinated volume spike, and realized this was no ordinary protest, but a high-level assault. The sheer geographical distribution of the botnet made filtering the attack nearly impossible. The corporation's digital defenses were under the most intense pressure they had ever faced, struggling to differentiate hostile junk traffic from legitimate customer requests. The crisis teams were on high alert, dealing with a threat they couldn't physically locate, leading to panic and disorganized countermeasures. Cam watched. The site was slow but loading. He felt a surge of defiance. This was a billion-dollar adversary with teams of engineers. But Cam had the chaos of the swarm. He adjusted tactics. If the front door was reinforced, try the windows. He switched to amplification attacks, instructing botnets to ask servers difficult questions, forcing them to work harder. By exploiting network protocols designed for simple requests, he managed to multiply his effective attack volume by a factor of 50 or more, turning tiny packets into massive responses directed at the target. Response times climbed. 1 second, 2, 5. The shield cracked. The volume overwhelmed the filters. The buckets spilled over. The website stuttered. Images failed. The digital gates closed, blocked by phantom visitors. The sheer, overwhelming volume of noise achieved what precision could not. It paralyzed the system. The website was rendered inert, not because of a sophisticated breach, but because it simply couldn't hear its real users over the roar of the flood. The attack was a victory of volume over intelligence. It was late in Cornwall. Cam was tired, eyes heavy, adrenaline fading. The rhythm was hypnotic. Launch, monitor, adjust. Usually, he sets a short duration, just enough to make a point. But tonight, he wanted to ensure it stayed down. He set duration to maximum, a continuous loop. Just for a little while, he told himself. Rest my eyes. He leaned back. The computer fans hummed a lullaby. The battle raged on the screen, but the room was still. Cam closed his eyes. And then, the unthinkable. The commander fell asleep. He slept through the night. The deep, dreamless sleep of adolescence. For the first time since the attack started, there was no human mind directing the chaos. Only automation. The machines, programmed for relentless hostility, continued their siege, unaware their master was dreaming of whales. The botnet, now an autonomous force, continued its destructive mission, running blindly on Cam's last command. The financial fallout, but the attack continued. The automation of cyber warfare requires no finger on the trigger. The machines obeyed the last command. Attack. For hours, the storm raged. The sun set in America, rose in Europe. Engineers fought a disruption that wouldn't cease. The website went dark. The security teams eventually realized the attack wasn't stopping because the source wasn't logging off. It was simply persistent. For a corporation, downtime is a hemorrhage. Money lost every second. Bookings failed. Reputation damaged. As hours ticked by, the cost mounted. $10,000, $50,000, $100,000. The attack was crippling the entire digital presence, affecting ticket sales, online merchandise, and investor relations. The damage went beyond simple inconvenience. It affected stock prices and long-term contracts. The true measure of the attack was its economic impact, forcing emergency meetings in executive suites. The disruption quickly translated into 7-figure losses. The attack was indiscriminate. It blocked mothers buying toys and partners accessing documents alike. Cam slept on. Outside, the mist lifted. Dawn light crept over the fields. Gulls cried. The world woke up. Cam stirred, blinked in the morning light, stretched stiffly. I looked at the screens. They were still running. Graphs flatlining. Status checkers red. Target disabled. Realization jolted him. He checked the clock. 8 hours. He scrambled for the mouse, shaking the computer awake, clicked through tabs. Stop, stop, stop. The cannons ceased. The phantom fleet stood down. But the damage was done. The silence was heavy. He hadn't meant to leave it running. He checked Twitter. The internet was buzzing. The outage was major. Statements were issued. The incident became news. A globally reported failure of a major corporation's online infrastructure, generating negative international headlines. Cam realized he had crossed a threshold. This wasn't a prank. It was a financial event. The site remained unstable for days. Reports later estimated the cost at $1.5 million. $1.5 million. A suitcase of cash. A lifetime of earnings. incinerated by a sleeping boy. The number was abstract to a teenager, but the consequences weren't. Money lost meant budget cuts, delayed projects, layoffs, real lives affected by the butterfly effect of a button press in England. The simple act of forgetting to click stop turned his protest into a historical financial crime. Yet Cam felt a detached awe rather than remorse. He had overwhelmed the unbreakable by accident. The sheer scale of his accidental achievement was dizzying. The success emboldened him. The internet seemed fragile. If he could take down a giant, who couldn't he take down? Hubris whispered. He was untouchable. He listened. He didn't know the attack left a trace. Botnets have patterns. Law enforcement was piecing the puzzle together. The defense teams were now highly motivated. Their investigation budgets significantly increased by the cost of the downtime. The hunt was officially on, funded by a multi-million-dollar loss. While Cam celebrated his online fame, a team of national and international cyber investigators were already zeroing in on the command source. His online boasts made their job significantly easier. The longest night was over, but dawn brought no safety, only visibility. The net was tightening. Cam returned the next night, ready to go again, promising not to fall asleep. He didn't realize the true darkness was coming, not on a screen, but in flashing lights and a courtroom. The digital dream was about to collide with physical law. Hubris is a dangerous companion. It whispers that you are untouchable, that the laws of Earth don't apply to the clouds. For Cam, sitting in his high-backed chair, hubris was a constant friend. He had challenged adults and won, challenged corporations and won, disabled a corporate network. The world seemed made of glass, and he held the stone. But the physical world remained. Wet pavement, grey skies, authority figures who didn't care about botnets. The mundane irritations of adolescence still chafed against his inflated sense of power. He realized his digital supremacy offered no protection against real-world, localized annoyance. In Camstown, entertainment was limited. Teenagers gathered in public spaces, parks, corners. But to the local police, a gathering was a disruption. Cam and his friends were often targeted. A patrol car would roll by, tires crunching gravel. "Move along, can't remain here." They would move. The police would follow. Too mature for the swings, too much sound. To the police, it was community management. To Cam, it was oppression. He felt hemmed in, chased. In the physical world, he was powerless, a kid in a hoodie. He had to walk away, swallowing humiliation. This cycle of control and submission generated a deep, simmering resentment against the uniformed authority. He was looking for a way to use his invisible power to strike back at the visible hand of the state. He found his chance when the same patrol car made one too many circuits past his gathering spot. He felt the red-hot sting of being displaced by arbitrary local power. But Cam had a secret. He walked away with his hands in his pockets, but his mind reached for his weapon. He knew the officer's power ended at the pavement. In the digital realm, roles are reversed. He went home, climbed the stairs, closed the door on the grey town, sat at his computer. The blue light washed away the helplessness. He pulled up the website of the Devon and Cornwall Police, standard government site, blue and white. Information on safety and reporting crime. The digital face of the authority that chased him. To attack the police is to cross a line. Attacking a game or a company is civil. Attacking the police is attacking the state. the structure of society, crossing the Rubicon. This was not a mistake. It was a deliberate act of digital defiance against the only visible symbol of constraint in his life. His motivation was simple: retaliation against the system that made him feel insignificant, using the only language he felt was effective: digital disruption. The amplification attack. He chose a sharp tool: NTP amplification. Computers need to know the time. They use Network Time Protocol, NTP. They ask public time servers, "What time is it?" The server replies with the time. But there's a flaw. Some servers are overly helpful, ask the right question, and they send a massive list of data back. The amplification. Input a small query, receive a large response. The trick is the return address. Cam sent the query to the server, but spoofed the return address. He made the request look like it came from the police website. Imagine sending 1,000 letters asking for heavy encyclopedias, but writing the police station's address on the back. The recipients ship the books to the station. The station is buried. Delivery vehicles block the street. Cam turned the internet's timekeepers into a mob, tricking the infrastructure to attack itself. This technique provided massive power without taxing his own limited residential connection. The spoofing disguised the true source IP, offering Cam a thin shield of deniability. This was a crucial security layer that Cam believed would protect him from tracing. He set it up: list of servers, target address, finger hovering over the input key. He hesitated. This wasn't a distant entity across the ocean. This was local. The people maintaining the server lived here. The officers drove past his house. The weight of local consequence briefly gave him pause. He was targeting individuals, not just avatars or corporate entities. He considered the boundary, then deliberately stepped over it, prioritizing his rage. But the memory of "move along" stung. He pressed the key. The attack launched. Queries went out. "Tell me the time." Thousands of servers responded, hurling data at the police website. Cam watched the traffic monitors. The spike was violent. The connection flooded. 1 minute, 3, 5. Anxiety washed over him. Reality sank in. This wasn't a game. It was the police. He stopped the attack. Send the termination command. The flow ceased. He refreshed the police website. It should recover promptly. This site can't be reached. He waited, refreshed. Nothing. A cold pit formed in his stomach. I stopped it. Why isn't it recovering? The result was not merely an inconvenience, but systemic failure. He didn't know his attack triggered a defensive mechanism. The ISP engineers saw the spike and performed a null route. They deleted the digital road to the police station to save the rest of the network. They severed the connection. The site wasn't disabled because of traffic. It was disabled because the defenders cut the cable. To the outside world, the police had vanished from the internet. The defenders' drastic action inadvertently magnified Cam's perceived threat level. They treated the attack like a hostile military action, not vandalism, elevating the severity of the investigation. 35 minutes passed, still down. Panic set in. Imagination turned against him. He pictured smoke pouring from server racks, melted wires. "Oh my goodness, I broke the hardware. I'll have to compensate them." He saw bankruptcy, furious parents, existences threatened. Hubris evaporated, replaced by the fear of a child who broke a valuable item. He closed the laptop, room in darkness. He sat in silence, listening, expecting alarms. Heavy boots on stairs. The door burst open. The silence of the country night was now filled with the imagined sounds of his apprehension. Only wind and rain. The separation between worlds felt thin. He targeted the authority, and it suffered disruption. Now he waited for the counter-response. Targeting police is different. They have handcuffs, warrants, the power to come into the physical world. Sleep was elusive. He stared at the ceiling. It was so easy, but the silence was deafening. Eventually, the sight recovered, but everything had changed. He provoked the authorities. He crossed the Rubicon. No alarms that night, but he was on the radar. The local police had the resources of the state to find the phantom who crashed their network. He moved from nuisance to threat against the state. The current was pulling him. The next few days were a blur of nerves. Walking to school, looking over his shoulder. Every police vehicle seemed to slow down. Every uniform looked suspicious. The paranoia was a constant, invisible consequence of his actions. He told himself he was paranoid. I used a spoofer. I hid my tracks. But deep down, he knew tracks are never truly concealed. In the digital soil, footprints remain, and people at the National Crime Agency, NCA, were very good at tracking them. The NCA, the UK's top law enforcement agency against organised crime, does not tolerate attacks on the police infrastructure. His actions had escalated the response from local police to national cyber investigators. He had crossed the threshold of a national security incident. The digital pursuit for him was now an organised, professional endeavour involving resources Cam couldn't comprehend. The boy who ruled the clouds realised he couldn't stay there. Gravity takes hold. Cam was about to have a rough descent. The morning air in Cornwall is crisp, damp with Atlantic spray. The routine was identical to 1,000 mornings. Sun struggling against grey, gravel crunching under school shoes, the weight of a backpack filled with textbooks. Cam walked to school, a solitary journey, to passing cars, just a teenager in a uniform. But the background was observant. The coordination to locate him had been finalized overnight, and the execution was clinical. He heard footsteps behind him, not the scuffing of students, but the heavy, synchronized tread of leather soles, a sound that didn't fit the rhythm. He kept walking. Footsteps kept pace. Then a voice, calm, authoritative, cutting the air like a knife. Cameron. He stopped, turned. Two men stood on the pavement, not local police in high-vis jackets, men in dark, tailored suits, out of place against the green countryside. They were not from around here. Their demeanour and dress belonged to London, to government offices. They stood out against the hedgerows and rolling fields like figures from a spy novel. They carried the unmistakable aura of serious, state-level inquiry. To a teenage hacker raised on movies, it looked like the FBI. Foreign. Seriously. The men carried official-looking badges and maintained an unnerving silence. Their silence was more intimidating than any shouted command. One man confirmed his identity. Then, the words that terminate the game. You are under arrest. Cam froze. Adrenaline turned to ice. He looked past them. The reality revealed itself. The suits were the tip of the spear. Across the grass, a net of police officers emerged. 10 of them. Vests, equipment. One officer seemed impossibly tall. This was a massive, carefully orchestrated operation designed to neutralize a perceived high-level threat. The state was reacting to the phantom attack with a full display of its physical power. The response was not that of a local dispute, but a national security measure, an overwhelming display of force. Cam, the digital god, felt incredibly small. The physical world had arrived with an army. He was surrounded, no escape. The internet was gone. He was just a 14-year-old boy with a backpack in the rain. The reality of his age was now exposed before the full weight of the law, stripping him of his online persona. They escorted him to a vehicle, the shuffle of a captive. He watched his town roll through tinted glass. The perspective shifted, the scenery of his extradition from freedom. The simple act of being driven down his own road felt like a foreign captivity. They drove to his house. Cybercrime investigations are peculiar. Arrest is the prelude to the search. Evidence is data, hidden in drives. They must disassemble the life to locate it. The vehicle pulled up to the farmhouse. His fortress was now a crime scene. Cam walked to the gate. A mundane moment. The latch was tricky. He knocked, his mother's voice. "Who is it?" "It's me. I've been arrested." Silence. Then, dismissive. She thought it was a joke. "Oh, stop it." "No, I've actually been arrested." The gate opened. She expected her son alone. She saw him flanked by suits, with a Trojan horse of officers filling the driveway. The shock was physical. The digital crime had manifested as an undeniable, terrifying reality on her doorstep. Her safe, rural home was suddenly overrun by the consequences of the virtual world. Color drained from the scene. One man stepped forward with a warrant. "We have a warrant," he said, and they walked in. The paper authority of the law trumped the walls of the home. The power of the state had officially entered the private sanctuary. Invasion. The home is a sanctuary. The police moved with efficiency. They went to Cam's room, the command center. They dismantled it, unplugged the computer, severing the connection. The screen went black. Fans ceased. Blue light extinguished. Harsh overhead light took over. The ritual of his power was violently extinguished. The officers wore gloves and masks, treating the computer like a biological hazard, full of invisible toxins. The technology was treated not as property, but as a dangerous instrument. They handled the keyboard and tower with extreme care, recognizing them as the instruments of the crime. Careful not to contaminate the digital evidence, they took everything. The tower with the hard drives, monitors, keyboard, every piece of hardware that contained the data, the logs, the stressor tools, was seized as evidence. Forensic technicians carefully sealed the equipment, ensuring the digital footprints of his crimes were preserved. The evidence collection was meticulous, designed to withstand intense legal scrutiny. The life he had lived only at night was now exposed to the harsh light of day and the public legal process. They didn't stop. They opened drawers, sifted boxes, took empty CD drives, rewritable discs, USB sticks. They took apart shelves. I looked under the bed. Thorough, silent. The invasion was complete, leaving nothing of his secret life untouched. Cam watched, a slow-motion demolition of his identity. Every object bagged was a piece of power stripped away. The forensic evidence was being meticulously catalogued, transforming his digital bravado into material proof of crime. An officer picked up a PSP. Cam felt desperation. "Please don't." The officer checked it. "If I don't find anything, you can keep it." She handed it back, the only technology left. The room felt empty, echoing. It looked like a guest room. The monitors, once sources of light and power, were now just silent, heavy glass. Cam looked at his mother. She was in shock, confusion and fear on her face. She didn't understand the invisible crime. She grasped the scale of the consequence, but not the nature of the transgression. Her worldview had fractured under the sudden, brutal intrusion. The search continued. They were looking for logs, scripts, and proof, and they found it. The tools, the history, the link between the boy and the phantom. As the van loaded, Cam realized his double life was over. The veil was torn. Cam the student and Cam the hacker were one, in custody. The men in suits were from the National Crime Agency, NCA, and cybercrime units, specialists. They knew about the stressors. They had been watching while he slept. The search ended. The house was quiet as a tomb. They led Cam out. He left his mother standing in the doorway with tears in her eyes. They drove him to the police station, the same station he had attacked. The brick building looked solid, impenetrable. He could disrupt a website, but not the institution. The servers suffer disruption, but officers still work. Code fails. Handcuffs lock. The physical authority remains supreme. He walked through the doors as a detainee. The world of exams is replaced by fingerprints and solicitors. The boy who played God was just a boy in custody. The men in black suits had captured the phantom. As the interview room door clicked shut, Cam was left with silence, deeper and more terrifying than any lag. The screen was dark. The controller is absent. No reset button. In a sterile room with buzzing fluorescent lights, a single styrofoam cup of water sat on a metal table. A tiny cup, meant for a water cooler. This object became the focal point of Cam's universe. Hours ago, he commanded a global empire. Now, he stared at 2 ounces of water, waiting for permission to sip. This was the new reality. Powerlessness. Cam had been processed, fingerprinted, photographed, given rubber Crocs to wear, stripped of identity. His civilian clothes and possessions were tagged and stored. He was placed in a room to wait. Time moves differently in a holding cell. In the digital world, milliseconds matter. Here, time was geologic. The clock ticked heavily. He sat there for 12 hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. For a teenager used to constant stimulation, this sensory deprivation was torture. No internet, no phone, only white noise. He was thirsty. Adrenaline left his mouth dry. He rationed the tiny cup like a castaway. This powerlessness was the antithesis of his online life. He used to impose limits. Now, the state imposed a limit on him, a small cup of water. The system was teaching him humility through boredom and discomfort. The interrogation game. During this confinement, the interrogation unfolded. Not aggressive table banging, a game of psychological chess. Good cop, bad cop. One detective entered, the man who arrested him. He didn't look like an adversary. He sat down, casual. He asked questions, not about botnets, about the game. Do you play Call of Duty? Cam nodded, wary. I play a bit by myself. You're pretty proficient, aren't you? Surreal. In the heart of the legal system, discussing competitive performance metrics. The detective spoke the language of the gamer. He bridged the gap. He was building rapport on Cam's home ground. Then, the offer. Do you want to participate? Me versus you? Cam stared. Under arrest. Mother grieving. And this man proposes a match? It was a masterstroke. Engaging Cam in his passion stripped away the fear. He became a rival, not a jailer. Cam agreed. They talked tactics. Cam found himself explaining his methods, his skills. Trying to prove his dominance, he revealed his sophistication. He fell into the trap, boasting about his knowledge of exploits and network topology, convinced he was impressing a fellow gamer. He freely gave up the context and details that the forensic team would need to confirm the evidence they had seized. He gave them the narrative to match the hardware they had taken. The detectives elicited his confession not through force, but by appealing to his arrogance, using his pride against him. He didn't realize every word was weighed, every boast was a puzzle piece. They were mapping his mind, assessing his capability. Was he a confused child or a calculated operator? The good cop mimics friendship. Cam latched onto it. He wanted to be understood. But while he participated in this exchange, a real investigation happened at the farmhouse. Forensics teams dissected his digital life, plugging into his router to mirror traffic, analyzing logs, finding footprints of stressor tools, asking for passwords. Cam handed the keys over. His digital kingdom was being systematically catalogued by the experts. The detectives knew everything Cam knew. They just waited for him to confirm it. His confession was an act of ego, not submission. The full extent of his botnet rental and trade was coming to light, confirming the NCA's assessment of his threat level. The weight of guilt. Cam's mind drifted back to the morning, the scene at the gate. He saw his mother, the tears welling, the confusion. She didn't understand the technology, only that the police were taking her son. The dog barked at the chaos. This memory was the heaviest weight, heavier than handcuffs, remorse. Cam had operated under the delusion that his actions had no victims, faceless corporations, abstract police, avatars. But his mother was real. Her sorrow was real. The realization crashed over him. He brought the storm to her doorstep. The butterfly effect was a physical reality. His mouse click caused her distress. He understood, finally, the human cost of his digital arrogance. The abstraction of cybercrime dissolved into raw, personal consequence. The only true harm he cared about was the fear he had placed in his mother's eyes. "I'm so sorry, Mom," he whispered to the empty room. The bravado evaporated. The arrogance dissolved. He was just a boy who wanted to go home. He wanted to reverse his decisions. He felt profound regret, not for being apprehended, but for the distress caused. The true cost wasn't $1.5 million. It was his mother's peace of mind. The hours dragged. The sun moved across the sky, invisible. Officers changed shifts. Cam sat in his Crocs. He realized the good cop game was a trap to keep him talking. They were better at their game than he was at his. He had played cat and mouse with the internet. He thought he was the cat. Sitting there, he understood. He was always the mouse. The cat was the system. Infinite patience. Finally, near 8 p.m., the door opened. Processing complete. Evidence secured. He was released on bail. Walking out felt like stepping onto a different planet. The physical world was the same, but his place in it had changed. He was a suspect, a marked individual. The vehicle ride home was quiet. Thick tension, no jokes. Only the suffocating reality of the legal battle ahead. He was released, but the legal chain around him remained tight. Walking back into his house felt different, compromised. Empty spaces on the desk like missing teeth. Absolute silence. No fan hum. No blue light. He sat on his bed. Adrenaline faded, leaving him hollow. He looked at his hands, hands that typed commands, hands that held the controller, now empty. The game was concluded. The screen was dark. Cam faced the darkness without a monitor to light the way. Sleep was elusive. The image of the tiny water cup lingered, a symbol of his contained life. The internet ocean was vast, but he was stranded on the shore, exposed as the tide went out. The wheels of justice turned slowly. They grind in the background, a heavy machine of paperwork and precedent. For society, slowness is a virtue. For a teenager living in semesters, it is torture, a suspension of time. Every legal delay felt like a deliberate strategy to magnify his anxiety and break his spirit. Months passed between arrest and trial. A grey purgatory. Cam was out on bail, but not free. No computer, empty room, boarded up digital window, strictly analog existence, haunted by the courtroom. Every day was measured not by school bells, but by the looming date of his hearing. The loss of his digital world meant the loss of his identity, leaving him adrift in a reality he found mundane and threatening. His life was defined entirely by his suspect status and the restrictions imposed by the court. The day arrived. The courthouse felt like a different century. Wood paneling, hushed voices, wigs, a theater designed to intimidate. Cam stood in the dock, a boy in an oversized suit, facing the British legal system. He was prepared to answer for his crimes. He admitted to the attacks. He was ready for punishment. He had mentally prepared for a verdict related to the Computer Misuse Act and financial damage. He expected financial penalties or a strict curfew, the charge of global threat. But as charges were read, the air shifted. The prosecutor listed the offences. Then a new charge, dark, sucking the oxygen out, threats involving aircraft safety. Cam listened in disbelief. The prosecution alleged he was a digital threat actor, that he sent threats to airlines, the White House, the FBI. The scale of the charge was ludicrous, elevating his juvenile acts to international security threats. He was not just a hacker anymore. In the eyes of the court, he was a risk to global stability. The legal system had weaponized his online alias and the anonymous chatter he was associated with. The evidence, a tweet. There is a nice timepiece in one of those lovely Boeing planes. Hurry, gentlemen, the clock is counting down. The words hung dangerously. Cam shook his head. He hadn't sent it. He targeted servers, flooded networks, but he never threatened physical harm. To him, the line was clear. He had played with code, not lives. He maintained a distinction between property disruption, which he admitted, and genuine malice, which he denied. The court didn't see a clear line. The tweet came from an account linked to him. Cam tried to explain, tried to inform his lawyer about the hacker underground. Accounts are compromised, shared, spoofed. People frame each other. The world of anonymous digital warfare was utterly foreign to the court. The prosecution successfully argued that in the post-9/11 world, a digital threat was as real as a physical one. They argued that the intent to cause panic was sufficient for the charge to stand. But the gap was a canyon. His lawyer was a man of law, not technology. He tried to understand communication delay versus data packets, but nuance was lost. The lawyer argued technicalities he didn't grasp. Cam sat silent, wanting to jump up and demonstrate the code. But there were no keyboards, only parchment. The defense struggled to translate the logic of the network into the language of the courtroom. He had to plead not responsible for the safety threats. The trial dragged on, stakes raised, the extradition threat. Then the shadow grew. Because threats targeted Americans, the US authorities took interest. Extradition was whispered. For a boy in Cornwall, the US was fictional. Now, a very real threat. The Secret Service and FBI put in requests. They wanted Cam. The stakes had been raised from a domestic juvenile court to a full international diplomatic incident. Primal fear gripped him. Jumpsuits, overseas containment centers, never seeing England's green hills. 14 years old, facing shipment across the ocean to face justice under a legal system that often treats cybercrime harshly. The fate of his freedom rested on a diplomatic legal battle. The weight of two continents' legal systems pressed down upon him. The case moved to the High Court, a battle over jurisdiction and compassion. The defense argued he was a minor. The threats were hoaxes. He should be tried at home. The waiting continued, sleeping every night, wondering if he'd wake up in a holding cell. Total disruption. The possibility of extradition became the dominant fear, a constant, paralyzing dread. His mother and family endured this agonizing weight, their lives on hold. Finally, the decision. The High Court denied extradition. The judge looked at the boy and the law. Extraditing a 14-year-old would be disproportionate, severe. The judgment focused on the principle of juvenile rehabilitation over international political pressure. Relief washed over the family. The prospect of overseas detention vanished. He would face justice at home. The sentence, reintegration. But the trial wasn't over. Sentencing day arrived. Safety threat charges were handled with skepticism. Civil disruptions. But the attacks on police and corporate networks were real. Damage was inflicted. The judge spoke of responsibility, community detriment, wasted police time, lost revenue. The court balanced the punitive measures against the need to harness his proven intelligence. The sentence: no incarceration, no youth detention, 120 hours of community service, a consequence fitting the activity. The boy who soared in the digital ether was grounded, forced to engage with the physical world humbly. The judgment was a symbolic correction, forced the disconnected disruptor to connect with his own community. He was tasked with serving the very public he had inconvenienced. For 7 months, every Saturday, Cam reported to a charity shop, folding clothes, sorting donations, old sweaters, chipped crockery, pressing trousers. Quiet, repetitive, manual labor. No screens, no heightened sensory experience. The scent of mothballs, serving neighbors face to face. He was no longer an omnipotent figure. He was a shop assistant. The mundane routine stripped away the glamour of his digital manipulations. It taught him the value of simple, visible, tangible work, countering the abstract, invisible nature of his crimes. But there was a second part to the sentence. A 5-year order of intensive surveillance by the National Crime Agency. The invisible chain. Free to walk, but not alone. The NCA would monitor his online behavior. They installed their own bridge on his connection. The former network controller was now observed by the masters of surveillance, a constant, invisible reminder of the state's power. Every click, every download was logged and analyzed. He traded digital liberty for physical liberty, a trade-off that forced absolute compliance. Cam accepted this. It terrified him into changing. He made a decision. give them nothing to observe. He ceased his disruptive activities, cut ties, became a digital minimalist, schoolwork only. One wrong choice could bring the suits back. If I face charges a second time, I am finished. The fear of the second strike kept him compliant. The weight of the law settled, reshaping him. It stripped away hubris, shattered the illusion of invincibility. Cam was 18 when the order felt routine. He felt he had ruined his life, missed university. His career prospects in any secure, technical field seemed irrevocably damaged. The police record was a black mark on his academic and professional future. But British law operates under principles of reintegration. His probation officer noticed something: intelligence, passion, a young person who mastered systems at 14. They recognized the potential benefit to society if his skills could be redirected. There is a computer networking event in Bristol, the officer suggested. You should attend. Cam hesitated, a convicted disruptor at a technology event. Then the phone rang, the National Crime Agency. We believe you should attend. An invitation, not an order, but significant. The system that caught the disruptor was opening the enclosure, indicating a new path. The establishment was recognizing the difference between criminal intent and misdirected ingenuity. The price of his freedom was now his compliance and cooperation. His future depended on leveraging the very knowledge that had nearly destroyed him. Cam packed his bag, left the charity shop, left the apprehension. He was stepping back into technology with the state's authorization. The boundary was crossed, the price rendered. On the other side, a new vista. The boy who broke the internet was about to see if he could help secure it. It is an old adage. The best resource managers are often former exploiters. To secure the environment, one must understand the method of infiltration, know the concealed paths, know the vulnerable points. Cam had spent his adolescence as the exploiter, roaming digital environments, setting snares. Now, he was offered a chance to assume a protective role. The Bristol event was a turning point, a 3-hour journey from Cornwall, leaving the cliffs and satellite dishes. Cam felt trepidation, walking back into the world of computers through the authorized entrance, invited by his overseers. He walked in not as an expert, but as a calculated risk, a reformed individual under the watchful eye of the agency that apprehended him. His history was both a difficult and valuable asset. His criminal record was now repurposed as specialized knowledge. The event was in a museum of industry. Victorian machinery stood silent, power quantified by steam. Now, a generation gathered to discuss power quantified by silicon. 30 companies seeking talent, architects of the future. The atmosphere was charged with innovation, a stark contrast to the stagnant solitude of his childhood bedroom. Cam walked the booths. He felt out of place. A script user, he saw coding competitions and felt inadequacy. He lacked the formal education, the professional credentials, and the clean legal record of his peers. His training came from the digital underground, not a university course. He felt the societal disapproval, but also the sharp insight of his own uniquely earned experience. But the NCA recognized his innate aptitude, the intense curiosity. Technical skills can be acquired. The intrinsic desire to comprehend a system is fundamental. His capacity to think like an intruder was his greatest advantage. They recognized that adherence to rules combined with capability was the perfect combination for a digital defender. They sought to exploit his offensive perspective for defensive utility. The philosophy of the justice system here was reintegration through apprenticeship, redirecting destructive talent into defense. Cam was introduced to a company willing to offer an opportunity, an apprenticeship in network security. Imagine the transformation. Years of viewing firewalls as obstructions, now instructed to operate on the opposing side, to reinforce defenses, repair vulnerabilities, observe the signals he once transmitted. The firewall was no longer a personal challenge. It was a collective responsibility. His role was to defend the very infrastructure he once sought to disrupt, turning his expertise inward. He began monitoring the Security Information and Event Management System, SIEM. In his bedroom, he watched screens of target IP addresses. Now, he watched corporate logs. He observed incoming incursions, probes. He identified them immediately. He knew them because he had originated them. He was fluent in the terminology of digital attack. He could interpret the intention behind the data packets. He saw digital signatures of other bored teenagers testing boundaries. He felt a protective connection. He knew their strategies. He could intercept them. The reward of thwarting a disruption was just as potent as initiating one. Operating for the security team. The custodian observed the flock. He found a new, profound satisfaction in preventing the very chaos he once engineered. After his apprenticeship, Cam sought employment with Cybersecurity Associates, CSA. The interview with Sean Tickle, the SOC manager, was pivotal. Standard inquiries about protocols and code. Cam responded with conviction. He embodied the subject. Then the critical inquiry. Is there anything that might prevent you from being eligible for security clearance? The moment of absolute truth. Cam chose full disclosure. He related everything to Sean: the console, disruption tool, the stressor access, the police network disruption, and the corporate incident. He explained the misguided activism, falling asleep, the $1.5 million financial damage. He presented the entire dark history of his digital life, accepting full accountability. He knew the complete truth would eventually surface, and that trust was the only valuable asset he had remaining. Most employers would have dismissed him immediately. Sean listened intently. He looked beyond the official record to the rare, innate ability. He viewed the high-profile nature of the previous disruption as evidence of Cam's technical capacity. He saw the 19-year-old in professional attire, regretful, yet technically proficient. To execute those attacks required exceptional persistence. Sean saw the potential asset ready to be utilized. He was motivated by a cause, even if his actions were inappropriate. Sean approached the company leadership. We should offer him a position. They concurred. The optimal defense is understanding the offense. Cam was employed. He relocated to Gloucester, wore a company identification badge, operated within a modern office environment surrounded by screens. He was no longer an isolated operator. He was part of a collaborative team. He had found his professional community, a group of skilled individuals who valued his unique viewpoint. He finally achieved the sense of belonging and recognition that he had sought destructively in the digital underground. His isolation concluded, replaced by a sense of shared, legitimate mission. He collaborated with another individual with a reformed digital past. Together, they were grey hats, utilizing knowledge of the digital underground to construct defenses superior to those created by conventionally trained graduates. No resentment from colleagues, only respect. How would an attacker approach this? Cam would detail the vulnerabilities. He incorporated the intrusive mindset into the defense strategy, transforming weakness into strength. He was effectively compensated to apply the curiosity that once characterized his unlawful activities. Cam's professional journey continued. The National Cybersecurity Center, NCSC, requested his involvement in education. The Cyber First program, interacting with teenagers in educational institutions, individuals just like him. Cam addressed the classroom. He observed the potential for advanced capability and risk in their expressions. He was communicating directly to the younger version of himself, isolated in his bedroom years prior. He became a tangible example of the potential consequence and the path to beneficial application of skills. He recounted his experience. He did not embellish. He described the encounter at his residence, the government personnel, his mother's distress, the fear of transfer to another jurisdiction. He emphasized the emotional and legal consequence, the authority of the law, not the excitement of the unlawful activity. He demonstrated that their technological abilities held value. They could be beneficial contributors. I discovered my true vocation was preventing incursions, he stated. I stop them before they occur. The message resonated. He was a survivor of the digital conflicts. He immunized them against the risks. His unique personal account served as the most effective educational instrument. The trajectory of Cam reached its completion. He commenced as an isolated figure, reaching out through conflict, violating regulations because they felt unfair. Through the intervention of the legal system, he discovered collaboration, a community that valued him for security, not disruption. The satellite dishes at GCHQ Bude still remain on the cliffs. Observing, the wind still moves, but in a quiet office, Cam operates before screens. The digital turmoil persists beyond the secure boundary, but Cam is not contributing to the disturbance. He is the filtering agent, the protective layer. He observes the secure data flow, detects an indicator, an attempted breach. Cam remains calm, proficient. He inputs a command, reinforces the barrier, diverts the intrusion. His quiet efficiency ensures that the digital world continues operating without incident. The network is secure. The custodian is vigilant. The boy who was apprehended for disrupting global systems can finally achieve tranquility, knowing he contributed to the betterment of digital security. As we conclude the documentation on the custodian of the network, Cam, we are left not with uncertainty, but with a profound and lasting sense of conclusion. The turbulent history of his life has transitioned completely from chaotic noise to a deep, consistent rhythm. The disturbance has subsided. Lightning has been effectively neutralized. The intensity has completely diminished to a gentle, steady cycle, marking the end of a long, complicated period. The narrative concludes not with destruction, but with the quiet, continuous state of digital function. We leave Cam in Gloucester, now illuminated by the soft, deliberate output of monitors, no longer a source of disruption, but a devoted observer of operational integrity. Uncontrolled youth has been successfully converted into protective expertise, and a deep, continuous stability has been re-established within the network he once inadvertently compromised. His continued involvement is an affirmation. The world's digital infrastructure is more secure because the individual who understood its vulnerabilities has chosen to safeguard it. He represents the ultimate success of reintegration, where significant technical aptitude is refocused toward the collective welfare, converting a liability into a formidable asset. His professional path is a testament to the idea that intellect, even if applied inappropriately, is a resource worth preserving. The system, which once seemed like an oppressive, unified opponent, demonstrated the capacity for understanding, development, and incorporation. This entire account serves as a final, quiet reminder of the core reality of the invisible network that governs our modern existence. We exist simultaneously in two parallel and unequal environments: the physical world of precipitation, geological endurance, and biological existence, and the digital world of energy transmission, fleeting instruction sets, and global communication. Typically, these environments feel entirely separate. We connect, we disconnect, transitioning smoothly between realities without conscious thought. But the dividing surface between them is thin, thinner than we allow ourselves to believe. Actions performed in the blue light of a screen reverberate directly into the clear light of the physical world. An input initiated in a secluded residence resonates instantly in a distant corporate office. The primary tension in the modern context is not between nations, but between the instantaneous, consequence-free sensation of the digital realm and the slow, inevitable influence of the physical one. The internet goes to rest. But now, as the night deepens and the digital environment reduces its activity, it is time for you to withdraw. It is time, completely and definitively, to disengage. Consider the internet not as a frenetic, unending mechanism, but as a vast, global metropolis entering its necessary period of repose. Daytime is intense. Data flows like constant, urgent commerce. The servers generate considerable heat, continuously demanding attention. Noise, economic activity, and contention are always present. Yet, beneath all the activity, the function of the mechanism slows. The network, too, requires cessation. Western regions disconnect, and Eastern regions are awakening, leaving a span of relative calm in the global data exchange. Data transfer pathways shift from aggressive transaction volumes to simple maintenance. The ambient noise level reduces, allowing the deep quiet of the infrastructure to reassert itself. The power of the network, which seems so intimidating in CAM's control, is now calmly supporting the most fundamental requirements of global communication, preparing itself for the morning, its disruption concluded. Imagine elevating now, ascending high above this vast environment, drifting further into the profound stillness of the upper atmosphere, observing the silent, extensive network below. The key points of light, the major data centers, are radiating like cooling embers, stable and consistent. Data traffic decreases, packets decelerate, urgency dissipates entirely into the cool night air. The frantic energy of the day is diminishing, leaving only the residual operational energy. The complex rules of the network, the very elements CAM learned to manipulate, are now operating with quiet, complete efficiency, handling the basic requests required to maintain systemic integrity. The digital disturbance is complete, leaving behind a stable network, generating minimal sound, under the effect of security protocols and automation. Observe Cam's entire journey laid out below. The faint light of the Cornish farmhouse, the invisible communication route across the ocean. The indicator is no longer red with hostility or urgent notifications. It is a steady, comforting green. It represents continuous functional status. The account has demonstrated that the network possesses organization and custodians. We may be apprehensive of unseen digital intruders, but tonight we have observed that the mechanism possesses inherent safeguards engineered for automatic recovery. An individual like Cam is operating, securing the barriers so you may rest. The reassurance is not that hazards are eliminated, but that the vigilance is unwavering and proficient. Embrace the certainty of that competence, the security provided by those who profoundly comprehend the network's fragility. Security is deeply established in that understanding. Rest without concern. The digital environment is observed. Custodians are positioned. Systems are protected. The protective boundary stands strong against the unknown. Allow your attention to drift entirely from the screens and digital addresses. Permit the persistent technical vocabulary to diminish into a soft, consistent low frequency. Return now, entirely and deeply, to the physical environment. Visualize the granite cliffs of Bude standing bold and unmoving against the deep night sky. Ancient geological formations enduring environmental pressures. Solid, unyielding. The rock is cold, dense, and timeless. In the presence of this permanence, the frantic velocity of the internet becomes entirely insignificant. The physical world is your stabilizing element. Experience the cool, dense certainty of gravity anchoring you, withdrawing you from the unstable energy of the data transmission lines. The turbulence of the digital realm cannot penetrate the tranquility of the geological one. Experience the stability of the support beneath your physical being, a certainty that no digital environment can duplicate. Below, the Atlantic Ocean moves with a slow, powerful, ancient rhythm. Observe the continuous motion of the waves, emerging from obscurity, cresting with lunar reflection, striking against the rock formations, dissolving into froth, in and out, ascend and descend. The vast ocean does not accelerate, it simply exists. This constant forceful rhythm is pulsing gently against the coast, and you can sense it in your own respiratory system. Discover tranquility in the absence of time. The digital world is rapid. The natural world is slow. We are beings of nature, composed of saline solution and water. We are designed for the slow, consistent environmental cycle, not the relentless digital frequency. Synchronize with that rhythm presently. Match your inhalation and exhalation to the wave motion. Inhale the cool, steady, saline air. Exhale the residual tension. Feel the pressure of the daytime activity diminishing with every slow, regulated breath. High above, the massive satellite dishes remain motionless in the moonlight. They are quiet observers, large, pale structures, watching the fixed celestial bodies. Imagine communications traversing through them. Residual cosmic energy, the faint transmissions of distant, forming celestial bodies. Focus closely on the cosmic harmony, a quiet, synchronized, uninterrupted sound in the profound stillness. The monitoring tools of the state are presently observing the serene elegance of the cosmos, leaving you undisturbed. Even the observers have shifted their focus away from the planet's minor conflicts, concentrated instead on the eternal distant celestial bodies. The wind transmits sound gently through the dish structures, a low tone, a sound of isolation, yet one that is profoundly restorative. The physical environment is at rest. We move further into that silence now. Imagine Cam's residence, illumination extinguished, apertures obscured, computing equipment absent. Precipitation descends now, soft, consistent regional moisture tapping the translucent material. A perfect, natural, gentle sound wrapping the dwelling in a soft, noise-dampening covering. You are safe, disengaged. The network cannot reach you. Obligations cannot locate you. You are logged off. You are completely powered down. Consider systems shut down. Your computing device terminates operational programs. It saves informational files. It stops processing cycles. It cools the internal unit. Indicator lights deactivate. Rotational speed decreases. Sound emission ceases. Your body is executing this crucial maintenance currently, terminating mental processes, concerns resolved, memory cache cleared, muscles relaxing, extremities relaxed, digits uncurled, core temperature lowering, gentle warmth extends, dense comfort anchoring you to the resting surface. Experience the gentle conclusion of all unnecessary mental activities, receding into fundamental existence. Experience the support of the resting surface, sinking deeper, into the cushioning material, into the night cycle, into your inner self. The extensive depth of rest awaits. Imagine a broad, slow-moving current. The surface is reflective, mirroring the faint celestial illumination. You are on a small, buoyant device, moving gently. You are without mass, suspended between the fixed points of the celestial bodies and the immense depth of the fluid. The current motion is imperceptible, yet continuous. It transports you effortlessly. There is no requirement to exert effort. There is no requirement to guide direction. The current navigates independently. Verbal elements diminish significance now. They become gentle, consistent acoustic patterns washing over you like the environmental tide. Botnet, bandwidth, signal, silence, ocean, mist, stone, rest. Simply gentle, insignificant acoustic patterns. Allow them to dissipate, breathing deeply and uniformly. In, out. Eyelids are heavy, completely sealed, secured. Experience the extensive support of the resting surface, sinking deeper, into the cushioning material, into the night cycle, into your inner self. The night extends before you, a vast, open expanse of tranquility. No alerts, no access credentials required, only deep obscurity. Recede into it. Allow the influence of repose to guide you toward the core of dreams. As silence deepens, be aware that we are present, maintaining vigilance. We represent the communication in the night, a stable indicator in the background noise. If this account assisted you in achieving tranquility, we invite your continued engagement. By subscribing, you ensure the subsequent narrative is prepared, a detailed account awaiting your experience. If you are aware of another individual requiring assistance in the night cycle, share this indicator. We are establishing a community of those seeking restoration. Thank you for your attention. The transmission is concluding. The signal strength is decreasing. The display illumination is diminishing to black. The planet is rotating. The celestial bodies are observing. You are secure. You are at rest. Good night. Rest effectively.